Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel and the project of making a 3-stop chamber organ from scratch. I'm in Westminster Abbey today, doing for a BBC broadcast of Choral Eden song tomorrow, and the choir are just practicing on the organ, with the organ. Today's Eden song, and I will have a rehearsal after the Eden song. But we're now on to the key action. We've done the draw stop action, and we're going to, it was another tricky one to film. It's a bit bitty, but I hope it will be educational, interesting to some of you, and I hope you enjoy it.
Right, we're going to start with the transposition of the keyboard. Now, for those of you who aren't aware, these little continuo organs are used usually within an ensemble, and sometimes they're used at modern pitch, which is at A440, or sometimes they're used at baroque pitch, which is A415, which is a semitone lower. So if you play on the piano, if you play an A, it will sound a G sharp. Now, in order to do this, we've got to move the keyboard down one note. So this little oak rail, which I've got in this jig here, will have two slots in it, two running slots, which will be located by a pin in the back of the keyframe, one in the treble, one in the bass. What I'm doing here is routering these grooves to take that pin, locating pin. So as I say, it's a specially made jig. The rail is held in there with some wedges, and I'm just going to gently router these slots out, taking small amounts of material away at a time. You don't want to try and take it all at once, because then you're going to get burning and the cutter will struggle and things will start to want to wander. So you just take your time. We do one slot and then move on to the next one. And that end horizontal or sort of adjacent slot at the end there, in the right angles, is where the pin will move. You'll push the keyboard in and it'll move one way or the other, up or down, depending on what pitch you want. And this will become apparent once I show you the key frame going in, resting on these rails. Now, for those of you who are paying attention to the last video, the draw stop action, there was a spoiler in there that these rails were already fitted, so you'll know what to expect. But I'll just show you again what these rails look like. So there you have two slots and a little groove at the end to move it across. So there's the pin in the bottom with the keyframe turned upside down. That's the pin, one of the pins. There's one on the treble, one on the bass, as I say, and there is the rail in position on the treble and one on the bass end. And that's just showing how it's fitted. So there's a rail screwed up to the underside of the case there. So now I'm putting the keyframe in. We don't need the keys in at this stage. I'll just plop down into those slots. And once you've got it pushed right all the way home, it comes out. This is to the left, which is 415, and push it a note up, it'll be 440 in modern pitch. Push it in, slide it across, and pull it out. So that's a simple way of just changing the pitch. So now we've got to make a link from the keyboard down into the wind chest. So this is, for the first time, this is the wind chest going into the case. I haven't done this before. This is I'm just praying that I've got my measurements right at this stage. And this was live. I haven't done this before. This is the first time I've had the wind chest in. We're about to find out whether it fits or not. There are a couple of rails attached to the casework to take this, obviously, two stretchers. And thank goodness that just slots into place exactly how I intended. There are a couple of pencil lines there. I've just located it roughly, and I'll just check it with a rule. Check it's in the right place. And as I say, it should be close because I've got pencil lines there. Just needs a little tap to get it spot on. Then we've got to fix this now permanently to the inside of the case. So get my aging body onto the trolley, and just I've got a couple of wooden angle blocks basically attached to the bottom of the wind chest, and they will be screwed into the side of the rail that the wind chest is sitting on. Obviously you don't want the wind chest to move inside the organ once it's been trolleyed around the church. Again, using the impact drill here just to drive those screws home. So the next thing is to make the register for the stickers. Now, the stickers, which we'll move on to in a minute, stickers are different from trackers. Trackers tend to be pulled, so they can be quite thin, and often they're about 1 or 2 millimeters thick. And the length of the integrity, obviously, of the timber is it's incredibly strong to pull, but if you try to bend it or push it when it's that thin, it's going to break. So the stickers will be thicker. They will be 6 millimeter dowels. And the difference between a sticker and a tracker is that you pull a tracker and you push a sticker. So the stickers on this, and I have to apologise, every time I seem to use the pillar drill I forget to put the mic on, but anyway, the stickers will go through this register, and which are basically 1/4 inch or 6 millimeter dowels, and they'll be pushed down from the keyboard, so they'll be resting underneath the keyboard. You'll press a note down, they will push the dowel down, which will push the pallet open in the wind chest, and this will become more apparent. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, it will become obvious as we move through this process of doing the key action and linking the keyboard to the wind chest, which is basically what the key action is doing. So these are 10 millimeter holes, and they will take 1.5 millimeter bushing cloth. We'll bush this with bushing cloth so that they don't rattle, don't make a noise. And that was basically, you see me pricking through that drawing is just coming printed straight off the drawing. We'll put a countersink on them. I'm actually doing 2 at a time here, so there's one, there are 2 rails here, one's sitting on top of the other. Again, I might as well do 2, I'm doing 1, there's no extra work apart from machining the piece up. And then we'll just mark the bass and the treble. We'll stamp a B and a T, because there might be slight discrepancies where because the scale of the keyboard isn't the same as the scale of the wind chest, if you sort of mean. So it's very slightly splayed, but they will vary slightly. And that's ready to be fixed just underneath the keyboard to take the top of the sticker. Now we need to bush the holes, so I'm just making some the right lengths of bushing cloth. I've cut them into strips. Using a little block. The rather laborious process of sticking the bushing cloth into the holes. It's one of these processes we just have to knuckle down and get on with it. It's a little tedious. And fiddly. And there's a piece of dowel which is the right thickness of it. It's an offcut of one of the stickers. Just to make sure that felt is nicely positioned in the hole. We'll fast forward through that. You certainly don't want to see me do all 54 of those. Right, now then we cut the stickers roughly to length, so 5 to 10 millimeters over length on the saw. At this stage we can do half a dozen or so at the same time. It's not critical, the length. This is just ramen hardwood dowels. Get these in any sort of DIY store. But this is premium. These are premium quality, obviously. Unfortunately, there's quite a lot of wastage because you can only get them in 2 or 3 meter lengths, and I need them in about 0.9, so that you're left over with a foot or so of 300 millimeters left over at the end, which is annoying, but it is what it is. Now we've got to do the wires that go through the grid of the wind chest. So there's the very basic jig here. I'm just cutting off the right length wires. This is brass. We can use phosphor bronze as well. Doesn't really matter. It's just it's much better to use a non-ferrous metal. Obviously, it's not going to rust. So we'll cut 54 of these, and then 54 of the shorter ones at the top. These take the adjustable colours, which will be what the keyboard sits on. So you'll see in a minute these little adjustable gadgets, which you can wind slightly up and down just to level the keyboard, and that's something I will be doing later in this video. Gives you just a little bit of flexibility. So 54 of those, and then we need to drill the holes in the end of the stickers to take those wires. So again, another simple jig here, and yes, unfortunately the microphone was set right next to the drill here, and I didn't realise. So you're getting the wind noise from the drill, but this is just another simple jig that drills just a 1.7 millimeter hole for a 1.6 millimeter bit of wire. You want a nice sliding fit. You don't want it too tight, don't want it too loose. And I will araldite these in. They won't go anywhere. So I'm only drilling one end at a time because I haven't determined the exact length of them yet. So what I'm going to do is to put the long wires in, the wires that go into the wind chest. We'll glue those on, and then I can determine the length of the exact length of the stickers, which will be minus the adjustable colours, which you'll see in a minute. So this is just a 2-pack epoxy resin glue. We call it araldite in the UK. I don't know, it's probably a very similar thing with different names around the world. It's good general purpose glue. Don't need very much, just a tiny dab on there. We'll wind the wire into there and twiddle it around a bit just to get a nice bead on it. And we'll do all 54 of those. Now, one mixing of this araldite will do about half of the stickers before it starts going off. I have to mix some more. I always manage to mix far more than I need. I never seem to learn, but anyway. So we'll fast forward through this. And now we've determined the length of the sticker required, we can offer the wire up to the stop on the saw and get exactly the right length. These stickers, so these stickers can now all be cut exactly to length, and then they can be drilled again for the shorter wires in the top to take the collars. I'm doing every one separately now because you can't guarantee that if you do lots at the same time to get them all the same length. It's pretty critical that these have to be the right length. So I'll do just one at a time, take my time. Now we'll put the little wires into the little jig, and it's just got the right depth there. We'll put the adjustable collars on. These are, yeah, I'm afraid they are plastic, but they do work very well, and they do exactly what you want them to do. There's just a tiny grub screw on the side of the collar there, which I'll tighten onto the brass. The brass is nice and soft, so the grub screw will dig into that brass and won't go anywhere. And basically that's just a little bit of aluminium with a thread on it, with a hole up the middle of it, and the plastic adjuster screws down onto it. And now we're ready to put them into the instrument. Now I haven't showed the fitting of the register, but the register sitting, you can't quite see it, but you can see how they're all being held in place there. The register's just sitting beyond that rail there, you can't quite see it. That's the register we did earlier with the bushing cloth in it. So we're pushing it down through that register and down into the wind chest, and there'll be a view of them going into the chest in a minute. You can see now they're pushing on the pallets, so the spring on the pallet is keeping them in place and returning them. Now the weight of the key won't be too much. The spring will be strong enough for the key to stay up and not drop, obviously. And you can adjust the pallet spring to get the exact touch that you want, as strong or as weak as you like it. You don't want it too weak, becomes too unreliable, and too strong is just uncomfortable for the player. So you have to get that sort of happy medium, and I've worked out roughly what that is. And that can be adjusted in the future if necessary. So there they all are standing up right now. So you see what I mean by a sticker. You're pushing on a sticker. With the tracker would be above the key, where it would be pulled, or well, it can be below. If it's a balanced action, it will be below. If it's above, the tracker will be above, because it'll be pulling it rather than pushing it. And we're pushing it here, so these are called stickers. And here they are going into the wind chest and sitting. You can just see the pallets there moving, and a satisfying popping sound when the pallet beds itself back up onto the table. There's very little friction on this. You don't want what you want as little friction as possible. I go on about friction with the action, but it is critical, because this is what the player, and this is the contact between the player and the instrument. The keyboard is everything. The touch on the keyboard is so important. So as little friction on this as possible to make it as comfortable as possible. We'll work all the way through to the top, and then we'll start adjusting things to move nice and smoothly and reliably. So yeah, once they're all in place, we get the little flat-nosed pliers, and we just make sure all these wires are upright, because sometimes they come out of the sticker at funny angles, and you just have to tweak them occasionally to straighten them up. And the same with the wires at the top where the adjustable collars are. It's difficult to tell from this angle, but actually I'm looking straight on, and that's the critical one. That looks a bit drunk there, but actually it's not if you look head on. A tiny tweak so that they line up with the noses on, if you remember from the keyboard, underneath the keys will rest. Now I'm left with an uneven keyboard now, because there's no way you can set that up accurately. So this is where the adjustable collars come into their own. I'll just grab hold of the collar with the pliers and turn the sticker. So wind the sticker up or down just to raise the key. And there's, as you can see, there's an oak straight edge on the top of the keys. Now that one I've just done, you can see it's just slightly crooked. I'll have to tweak that at the back, at the pivot point at the back, just to level that key up. It's moved. So we're just winding them up, getting them absolutely, that just needs a tiny little bit more, and you see there's a hair there now, that's gone. So we can get them really, really accurately and nice and level, and it looks so much better. Nothing worse than an uneven keyboard. Just looks awful. Now there's only one more thing to do, and that is to add the thumper rail, which is a rail that sits on top of the keys to stop the keys from bouncing. So it's basically just an aluminium rail with some felt on it. And you see the bounce on that key now, that would be horrible to play. So you put a rail just resting on the back of the keys, under the, just right at the back, just hidden by the rail above it, but now you see the difference between the bouncing and non-bouncing. So that's the end of the key action. Thank you for watching, and we will next be showing you the fitting of the blower, which will be a short video, but I look forward to seeing you then.